Welcome to the Purpose Breakthrough Podcast, the podcast for men who are ready to stop chasing fulfillment and start making clear, confident decisions while taking aligned action towards their true purpose. I am your host, Tyler Woods, and my intention is to help you cut through the noise so you can do what you're meant to do. Let's dive deep, break through to the life you were meant to live. Welcome, one and all, to the Purpose Breakthrough Podcast, the number one podcast for men who want to lead themselves, become more motivated, and live their purpose. I'm Tyler Woods, and this is episode 1. Today, I am joined by Mr. Ryan Albury. Ryan, thanks for joining me here today.
Is it the number one podcast because it's the first episode or because it's number one ranked in the world? Who's the judge?
All the above. All the above.
Beautiful. Happy to be here.
Yeah, likewise. So we're setting the intention here today that you leave this conversation more connected to faith, hope, trust, excited for what's next, but also for excited for what is right now, because it's not always about the next thing. Life is a series of things. It's a series of moments. It's present, it's now, and it's then. So, Ryan, let's start with a quintessential question. Who are you?
How deep do you want me to go with that one?
Let's go 6 out of 10.
Okay. 6 out of 10. Well, I guess we would have done well to discuss the scale of that first, my 6 or the 6. So I'll do my best. I am a human individual that is very calm currently, even though there are lots of disturbances going on. So currently, mentally, I'm calm and disturbed. That's a little bit about who I am. I'm playful. I'm confident in the positions that I'm in currently, and this is something that we're going to talk a little about today, of course. I'm a Pisces, born in 1984. I'm a men's work facilitator. I am a trained as a yoga teacher. I don't practice this, although I do pull some elements from it to do the work that we do today. I am a journeyer in the spiritual realms, you could say. I've had a lot of different experiences through the yoga and the breath work and the Reiki and the traveling to strange spiritual communities in strange countries and facilitating in many different ways, even attending an ecstatic dance or two. I'm a man of service, I would say. I, of course, run a business, but I work to provide value that's above and beyond, no matter if there's money involved or not. There's very much a karmic service aspect to my life. So one could say a warrior of service, someone who's deeply caring of the truth and finding out what that really means.
So I can't imagine it's always been like this. When you say yoga teacher and you say truth, I'm curious how your relationship with truth has changed, say, from before you're doing what you're doing now in this current iteration of a service-based business. Maybe take us back a little bit about how you came to be in this current iteration as a men's work facilitator, especially as it relates to that word truth.
Well, on the spectrum of truth, there's going to be a wide variety of things that can be called that word. And on the far end, opposite truth would be delusion or illusion or confusion or something, ignorance, something along these lines. And I lived much of my life in a certain type of ignorance. And that led to a lot of suffering. And so, when I really look at the origin story, if you will, I was going on a completely different trajectory. And then something or someone or somehow I was put onto a different track. Almost like when you see those railroad tracks and there's like a split and someone's trying to run up there and like hit the lever really fast. It's like I was going the wrong way and then someone hit the lever just in time and I got over to this other side.
Mm.
And so I would definitely not claim to have found any truths. I don't even know if truth can be put as plural, but I would imagine that that's a leveled system as well. But I was put onto a path somehow of which is commonly called a healing path or a healing journey, and that led me from one thing to the next, and so that really started with being very very relational, very much focused on relationships and um, love, sex, marriage, children, family, and that never working. And so this devastation occurred how many years ago now? I guess that's like 8 years ago. And it had me doing things like Googling, how do you get your ex back? And then like that was literally the first moment or one of the very first moments of this trajectory. And it led me to this thing called a coach. And I was like, what is this coach? I mean, I played sports my whole life, so I knew of the term coach, of course, but it showed me that there was a thing called a life coach or a dating and relationship coach, and it just progressed from this Floridian dating and relationship coach, very conservative, to the next thing, which was David Data's work, to the next thing, which was masculine and feminine energy, and then masculinity and books about masculinity, Robert Augustus Masters and Sam Kelly, I think his name is, Fire in the Belly, King Warrior,
Mm.
Magician Lover, Iron John. All this stuff started coming in 2017, where I found the Mankind Project and went through their flagship weekend, the New Warrior Training Adventure, and just kept going with them for many years after that. And it became this experience of like having to learn how to facilitate because I was the only one in my town and my town was separated by oceans. So
Mm.
you couldn't drive there. You had to take ferries to get there. And so I had to become versed in facilitation. And much like you opened the podcast with, I was very excited about this new thing was
Mm.
shadow work, men's work, emotional process work, expression, vulnerability, accountability, authenticity, this whole like bubble of exciting things. How does it all fit together? And so I was very captivated. Fast forward, I did that for many years. I began facilitating people outside of group, and that led into people wanting to pay me money, which was a whole other thing. And I was not ready for that. And it just started happening. And uh, I got to a place where I was like, oh, men's work doesn't work. It doesn't do the thing. I've been doing this for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Why do I still feel the same? I mean, it's a little better, but why do I still feel the same? So I continued my journey into the more spiritual side of things. I had an injury which led me to wanting to go into yoga because I was like, hey, my body is not doing so well. I need to strengthen, heal, and that led me into the next hero's journey of uh, the yoga teacher trainings, the shamanic Reiki trainings, the breathwork facilitator, the silent retreats, the plant medicine journeys, the ice baths, the Cambo, the all the fun things. Until I really rounded out that the arc of the hero's journey and got to the return and returned home many years, or I guess that was about a year, but I returned home and it was time to start serving, which was very serving more. I mean, I was serving all along the way, but it became obvious that this was my path, this was my purpose, this is what I was built to do. This is how I was cultivated in some way by forces unexplainable to be the certain person for certain people that's going to create results that are the next thing.
Mm. So when you were in that series, going from the next exciting thing to the next maybe scary thing to the next thing, what was what was your goal? Like, were you going towards a feeling? Were you going towards becoming something? Or what was your perspective like on that hero's journey? Or was it more of a felt presence?
I worked with a number of coaches before I left the country. I left the country in 2021 for like the next level of the journey, but I work with a number of coaches, I think 3 or so. And what I started to realize near the end of it, which was around 2020, the end of working with coaches, was that the same answer always came, was just peace, like salvation, that type peace, like where it's just there's nothing coming at me, whether it's thoughts coming at me or emotions coming at me or bills from the government coming at me. I went through a bankruptcy a number of years back, and there was a lot of collections and government notices and the nice brown envelopes that they've got. And there was just constantly, I was running a different type of business at the time, and people phoning me needing my help, or this situation's going on, or my employees at the time needed something from me. It was just constantly something like coming at me or needing something from me. And I got to the place where it was just, the answer was always just peace. I just want peace. I just want peace.
Mm,
I don't, at the end of the day, I don't care about anything else. I learned enough about relationships and um, career and business and these types of things to realize it's like, I'm doing all of this for some sort of redemption. And I just want
mm,
peace. So that was really the driving factor, was like working to find some sort of place or experience or feeling, as you said, that was just calm. I mean, it's funny that I didn't intentionally use that word at the beginning and now use it now,
right.
but that was just calm and just okay. And even up into the neutral, and then into the place of like, wow, it could even be good after that. I wasn't even thinking about good. It was just like neutral peace, like just stillness. That was always the driving factor, and in a sense it still is, I would say.
Mm,
Yeah.
right. So before it was kind of just like, if you look at that scale with peace as a neutrality, and like I guess that could be zero, maybe the quote unquote negative being on the negative side of the spectrum, the ecstatic good on the positive. So you were in the negative. You were more kind of, were you feeling desperate? Was it exciting? I mean, like, of course, a little bit of both, maybe.
I mean, I've come to love the word ratio, and to me, it's always a
Mhm.
ratio of things that's happening. Some anger, some grief, some shame, some sadness, some excitement, some happiness. It's always sort of the case with these emotions and states. But for me, I actually broke down and went to the doctor at some point, and they with their diagnosis system, which I don't accept or agree with anymore. It was I was diagnosed to have moderate to extreme depression and anxiety. I had anger problems. I had a drinking problem. I had uncertainty about where I was going in life, who I was, what I was supposed to be doing. I had insecurities, lack of confidence, lack of self esteem. Like, I mean, pretty much all of it, other than, addiction, any types of addictions to substances other than alcohol.
Mhm.
But yeah, pretty much like, the worst combination of things possible. And I lived on an island where there were, maybe 30, 40, 50 people in the winter. So also isolated. So it was a Molotov cocktail, a witch's
Yeah.
brew of chaos that I had to find my way out of. So yeah, like you said, it was definitely on the negative side. So there was something like some promised land of peace. It was like,
Hmm.
I know if it's bad, and we live in a world of dualism, bad and good, or night and day, and hot and cold, and all these different dualities. Well, if it's bad, then it's got to be good, because I live in a place where there's people who have million or millions of dollars worth of vacation homes that they come to for long weekends and here and here. And so theoretically for them it's good. I mean, they got more than me, so that's good. So I could at least aim at like, well, that's better. So there's this sort of drive of like, okay, there's got to be a way to get to a place of, fill in the blank. We're using the word peace right now, but fill in the blank of anything good. There's got to be a way.
Yeah.
And I mean, I battled with like disbelief that there was a way. Like for the majority of that time, was like, it's gonna be like this forever. It's it's, and this is where this might take this conversation into an interesting place, but it's going to be,
Hmm.
there were thoughts that said it's going to be like this forever. I'll always be broken. I'm going to
Right.
be failing forever. There's nothing I can do. I just have to accept it. I just have to put up with this. This is how it's going to be. I guess I have to endure it. So there was this kind of force that was like, but it might not be the truth. But it was small. It was very small.
Small.
Yeah.
Right.
But it grew.
It grew. And so as that grew, I guess I'm kind of seeing into the story like the carrot on the stick, right? Getting to peace. Like I'm gonna get to peace and then it's gonna be better, right?
Mm.
So as that voice or that presence grew of like it can be better, it can be different. How did you start to shift that relationship with like that peace being a destination? I guess like the shift from chasing it to living it to just, of course I'm kind of hinting at the paradigm shift,
Mm.
but
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it was very much desperation. It was like, I just need to get to the next day. I just need to get out of this emotion here right now. So it wasn't so much of I like when I say small, it was less than 1% that I was like, it's possible
mm,
to have anything different. And so
yes.
it wasn't so much of a like, I can see it or sense it or smell it or whatever, fill in the blank, but it's like I just have to keep going. And I didn't have any other option. Like to, and unfortunately, so many men end their lives. I didn't have that option. Like it wasn't available. Uh,
Mm,
Very close to that. Like I don't want to be alive, but that was the end of that string because I've already experienced in my life people that have decided to end their lives. So it's like I
mm-hmm,
didn't have access to that because it was just like a no for me. But it was like I wish I wasn't alive. I don't want to be alive. So it was very much a desperation act of like just get to the next thing, get through this day, get off work, grab some beers, and get out of it. Like find the peace. And that's why I used to drink so much was to find some type of peace, right? Like it was like this shedding occurred of all of the things that my mind was grasping onto that were very, very much involved with the suffering that I was experiencing. So,
mm,
a series of events that occurred basically forced me to um well, actually, I don't remember the nature of your question, but a series of events basically forced me onto into a new path, right? It was like it just so happened that I was like pushed in a way. It's like I can't do this anymore, and something was sort of internally coaching me. It's like we can't do this anymore. Like this is it's just it's gonna explode, so we might as well pull the pin. And that was a lot of it was into for years and years and years and years. That was a lot of it. Like I just gotta get to the next thing, but it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And so when it was getting worse and worse and worse, I got to a place where it's like, oh, it's so bad that I have to actually stop drinking as well. And that was another one of those moments where it was just like something redirected me fully. It was like that that's been 3.5 years, I guess. And well, I guess it doesn't matter the amount, but some number of years like that. I don't recall the exact number, but that was like a massive one of those moments as well, where it was like there wasn't really a vision of what was possible. It was more like a grasping for just feeling good, not with a mental clarity of what that meant. I had this word peace, but it wasn't really like a vision at that point. It was just sort of like a state that I thought might be possible. And this this force that I've been talking about was kind of um, you know, pulling my ass out of the fire numerous times to the point where it was like, okay, it's clear to me what I need to do, and I actually need to like leave the known. And
mm,
because I injured myself, as I went so far to like say no more men's work, no more I was already coaching at that time. No more coaching, no more spiritual stuff, no more friends, no more lovers, no more relationships. Like I need to get a job and I need to get my finances in order because that's something that I can go do. And so first day on the job, I injured myself. I injured my back lifting something that was too heavy in a poor position. And that really led me to being like, okay, now I can't even get a job. My body's ruined. I need to start with my body.
Mm.
And so I just kept getting guided. I mean, there was no, it was more like someone or something had me by the scruff of the neck and I was trying to run that way and it kept pulling me back. No, like over every day. No, no, no,
Yes.
no. Go back to the feelings. You're not done with the feelings. Oh, don't go get that factory warehouse job. Go over here. Go do a yoga teacher training. Like you're not done with this path that I've got you on here. So that's very much what it felt like. Less of a dangle,
Hmm.
more of a like I don't have a choice. Something's basically jerking me around to where I need to be.
At what point did it feel like you could actually trust that thing? Or was it
Uh,
just an ever present, just like, oh, this again? Well,
I mean,
okay.
probably like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
There was always some not not always, sorry. There was a sense of trust that I would say in probably around 2020 that began. Something happened that summer of 2020, right around when things were continuing to get weird with COVID. Um, things just started showing up uh when things were supposed to be bad, things were starting to get better
Mm.
for me. Like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird, but COVID was one of the best things that happened to me because it again was one of those things where it's like I moved off of the island I was living on and I was like, I'm gonna get a job and I'm gonna join a hockey team and I'm gonna have just a normal life and get back into society. And COVID was like, nope, you are not. And you're gonna also have another breakup that's gonna devastate you. And you're gonna lose the place where you were living, which you thought was gonna finally be a hub for community. And then that's gonna happen numerous times after that. And it just drove me straight to injuring myself. But so I would say it was around then because it was about a year later that I got to the yoga teacher training and started down that next phase of the adventure.
Mm.
I
So
think
how
that
did
like right around that time, my teacher was starting to point at what he called God experiences, but I had very much a resistance to the word God because of how it related to my story of the Christian faith at the time.
Mhm.
So that was another thing. That's about when he started saying that to me as well. Was he's like, remember all the God experiences you've had? And I'm like, what God experiences? And he showed me a few moments where when I look back at them, I was like, oh yeah, I couldn't see it or feel it at the time, but something else was happening there.
Mhm.
So that I would say it was around 20, like probably, yeah, winter 2020 that this concept of trust started to be apparent to me.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it's been like a 4 year journey of like learning how to trust every day, you know?
Yeah. So in that trust, let's talk about purpose, right? You mentioned leaving the known and realizing, oh, this thing, this force, this God experience is kind of setting up these moments, changing the train track for you. What was you were doing men's work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these words like purpose and discipline and commitment and mission, integrity, they're kind of like the buzzwords or the concepts. How did you relate with purpose before this realization and this trust? And how did that change for you as that deepened?
I learned the word mission in 2017. So it was intellectualized then, but I didn't really understand it until 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So it got talked about here and there in men's work, but the men's work that I was in was very much more about your beliefs and your shadow and your your mind and your emotions and community and brotherhood and connection and depth and all these things. It was I've talked at length about this. It wasn't very much on the hard side of things. It was very much on the soft side of things. Now,
Right.
the soft side can be difficult and challenging and intense and fiery as well, but it's more of like the inward aspect. And so there wasn't a lot, where I was anyways, there wasn't a lot of focus on mission and accountability and discipline, etc. Uh, but what I started to realize, and this is actually, I mean, it's my story, and so I have a bias, but I think it's quite a beautiful story as well. It's like I started to realize it's like I am so damaged and destroyed right now that I I should only do what feels good, and drinking feels good, but it doesn't actually feel good because the next day it doesn't feel good. And then usually what because of the grief that was happening that year for me, even when I'm doing the thing that feels good, it doesn't feel good half the time because then the grief gets pulled up and then I'm in that and trying to drink it away. And it's just a messy story. But I realized in a moment of beautiful sobriety that's like, okay, I was at a men's weekend. I was asked to be one of the leaders of the weekend and I was facilitating. And I realized when we left the property, I was like, here comes this other force, this dread, this agony, this fear, this shame, like all these sort of other buzzwords, if you will, that were like starting to come back. Up here in Canada. We have kilometers, but kilometer by kilometer, mile by mile by mile, I'm like, this weight is coming back on me. And I had a realization in that moment. It's like, oh, okay, if I just do what I like, what feels good as much as possible, then I'm going to just feel good as much as possible, not thinking that it's going to actually drive depression and anxiety and uncertainty away. It's like I just need to do what feels good. So that was my understanding at the time, was just like very, very immature, amateur, rudimentary understanding. Do like caveman, do what feel good, like it was just like that. And I started to remember all of these things that I had heard about from this dating and relationship coach way, way, way back about purpose. And he talked about it from the lens of, well, purpose is attractive to the feminine female. And so it increases polarity, and polarity is how you keep your relationship together. And I started to tap in. I'm like, okay, well, that's great. But what he was talking about was men and their fulfillment, which brings the confidence, which brings the charisma, which brings the often prosperity and the ability to be generous and provide. And he's looking at it through a relationship lens, but I'm looking at it through a mental and emotional health lens now, and even physical health. So I started to get these realizations of oh, if I do this all day every day, there's a tank that fills. So if I'm always reading books on, at the time, men's work, parts work, if I'm always mentoring people or being mentored, if I'm always in a group that night, or if I'm in a session, or if I'm sending audio notes to my teacher or my mentor or my coach or my friends who are also in men's work, I'm always there. And so it was about a year later, I did a very, very deep purging. I don't like the term, but I'm going to use it anyways because most people can resonate with it. A very deep healing journey over 7 days, fasting. I've never fasted before that time. I've never done ice baths before. I've never done things like Cambo before, and there was a very large ceremony at the end of that, and so in that moment, in that experience, there was a moment where the this facilitator, he had hypnotized me, or like, it was a hypnotherapy session, and he's like, what do you want in the world? And I was just defeated at that point. I was like, I don't want anything. And he's like, well, what do you want for the people that you care about? And then this vision
Mm.
occurred, and then it became very obvious. It's like, oh, I'm no wonder everything has failed trying to find community, because I'm supposed to build it. And no wonder I have all these experiences now, because I'm supposed to use them to build it. and keep going with that story, everything made sense all of a sudden. Oh, no wonder I've gone through all this pain, so I can sit with others who have not gone into those depths themselves yet, because everybody has a well. Maybe their well is deeper than my well, or my well is deeper than their well, whatever, but everybody has a well, and I've been down in that well for a long time, probably too long, and so I can sit in there with people very easily. It's just like, okay, and retain my nervous system and my ability to lead and guide. I don't want to say out of that place, but through that place in a complete manner, and which then
Mm,
leads you to being out of that place. So it became very obvious to me in that experience, which was September 2021, that like, I was built for something. And in the ceremony that I had uh, in at the end of that week, the week was like a preparation for that. It just became very clear to me, like the humor of all of this, and of course it's very serious and very very troubling, and very violent, and very much full of pain and suffering, but that there's also like an underlying innocence to it all, of like, it's just ignorance, it's just immaturity, we're just an immature species doing immature things, and it's not so personal. It's just kind of like, it rains outside, you get mud on your boots. That's just the fact of it. And I realized in that moment that or in those moments in the coming weeks, that I was like, oh, I'm really good at facilitating men's work, and I'm really good at leading, and I really understand now what fulfillment and the exit from all of that nasty shit, like depression and anxiety and rage and alcohol abuse and whatever. I was like, oh, this is purpose. That's the antidote here. And it's not connection, it's not brotherhood, it's not union, unity, Christ consciousness. It's none of that. It's like, at the simplest level, something that I can do all by myself is to be on purpose. And so I had to test that, of course, for many years to determine
mm,
if that was true. But then I started to see, the more I was in alignment, and it was really easy to get off of alignment while I was discovering the purpose. But the more that I was in that sweet spot, like the football quarterback has that pocket, it's like that moment where everything slows down, and it's clear, and you see your wide receiver cutting across the field, and you throw it right at the right moment, and the math lines up, and it's like boom, and he catches this like nice beautiful 40 50 yard bomb, and it's just like, that's how it feels. It's just like, it's just so fulfilling, it's just so deep. And so I was like, okay, I gotta master this, and I have to help people with it.
mm. So when it comes to fulfillment, I guess, what is it about purpose? Well, let's start with the base of that purpose. What is purpose? Is purpose doing a thing? Is it the act of serving something? Is it mastery? What is it about purpose that brings this fulfillment that everyone is looking for in all these other categories,
Mm-hmm.
relationships and brotherhood and
Well, it gets said other ways and other places that service is one of the most fulfilling things that there is, right? Not feeling great, go help someone else. And then you could look at it through the Buddhist lens or the yogic lens with karma and all that stuff. And that could be talked about in its own way. But really, there's just something beautiful of someone in need getting their need met in a way that's not transactional. It's like, hey, I need nothing from you. I'm and there might be a transaction additionally, like, I'm on purpose and still getting paid. But I've said numerous times, it's like, I don't even care about the money. I mean, yeah, of course I need to make money, and I have goals for money and blah 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 blah, but ultimately I would be doing this if I was working at 7-Eleven or McDonald's or in a construction site again or whatever, right? It's like, I would still be doing this thing. So ultimately it doesn't matter to me that it's my business. It's like, it's just what I do everywhere I go. It's how my brain works now. It's how my mind works now. It's how my body works now, is to serve however I can. And selfishly, it started from because it makes me feel good.
Mhm.
But then I realized it's like, oh, okay, I feel good. I don't need to feel good. It's gonna do something to me. But it's almost like filling up a tank with $10 because you just filled up the tank yesterday and you just fill it up again. It's like it's kind of it's kind of not for that. Well, it hasn't been for that for quite a while. So you said, what is purpose? For me, purpose is it's what I do for others. And that can
Mm.
look a myriad of different ways. It can be volunteering at a soup kitchen. It can be handing out sandwiches. It can be volunteering in a men's work organization, as I used to do for a long time,
Mhm.
and I still do, or I should say, do again. I took a little break there. um, it can be your career. It can be. It doesn't have to be, but it's just about like, what do I do to make this place a better place so that my little mini insignificant meaningless gonna fade away to dust as soon as I die legacy is maintained. you know and there's people whose legacies
Mm.
last longer than others, but it's like, if one person when it comes to my funeral and says that he really helped me out, it's like, boom, done. My life was perfect and I had a meaning. If I helped one person, right, that's what purpose means to me, is like, how far away from myself can I get? But what that means is, how full can I get in myself? Because we are selfish, immature, fearful little monkey beings. I mean, mammals, animals, bodies, beings, call it whatever you like, depending on what you believe. But we are selfish. Like, when I'm hungry, I'm going to be thinking about myself. This is selfish in a sense, right? So it's like, how full, how strong can I get in myself so that I can give more and more and more to others? uh, whether that's financially, or whether that's with presence, or whether that's with skills and abilities, building a fence for Norma down the road whose fence fell over and she's got nobody in her life, like, whatever it is, it's what I do for others. It's my service to the world. And when we line it up with higher levels of that, my gift, my soul's purpose, there's these higher levels as well. So it's what I do in a sense, but eventually the way that I use purpose is like, my mind is about purpose. My emotions are about purpose. My level of energy, physical energy, is about purpose. It's like, everything is purpose at that point. So my entire existence, as far as I know it, is about purpose primarily. And then there's other things afterwards, the other categories that you mentioned. Well, of course, finances, and of course, relationships, and of course, spirituality, and of course, the environment out in the world. But it's like the oxygen mask. It's like, if I'm not full, how well am I going to do out in the world? So when I focus on being
Mm.
full from doing well out in the world, it's a win-win immediately, because now I'm doing well in the world and I'm getting this level of fulfillment from it. Although it's almost, well, here's the next level. It's almost as if that fulfillment that most people get from service, it comes in and exponentially gets given out again. So it's not even really something that, at the level that I'm talking about, a purpose that I worry about holding on to anymore, because now it's connected to, as I mentioned the word God earlier, it's connected to, it's like, oh, this isn't even my purpose.
Mm.
I'm I'm a vessel, or I'm an instrument, or I'm a soldier, or I'm a Saving Private Ryan over here. Like, I'm the low man. I guess I shouldn't say that saying. I'm People might get offended. Uh, I'm low on the level of the hierarchy of the game of life. Like, relative to God, there's a bigger plan here, and that's
Mm.
purpose for me, is alignment spiritually. So it is what you do if you're on purpose, but it can go all the way to the levels of being full spiritual, some higher level of spiritual alignment, higher than it before, for me.
And so to the man who's still in that space of desperation, right? Maybe drinking, maybe not even, maybe men's work isn't even a thing to that man. It's just kind of like, I know purpose is a good thing. I need to have purpose. What would you say to that man without him going on his own hero's journey and having to go through all of the things? What can someone who's in that place of desperation do to be more fulfilled, to find more purpose, to live more in that alignment?
Well, we all, as men, have resources. Now, you might have $5 in the bank or in your pocket. You might be depressed. You might be drunk like me. Not like me now, but like me in the past. There might be all this stuff that wants you to believe that you don't have resources. But somewhere in the categories of mental, emotional, physical, relational, spiritual, or financial, you have resources. Okay, why is that important? To answer your question, find a place that you can give from and start giving as much as you can from there without bankrupting yourself in that place. So don't give all of your money if you have $5. Well, you can do that too, depending on the circumstances. I mean, that might be the right thing for some people to give everything they have, their last $5, as a total act of, we used a football analogy earlier, a Hail Mary. I'm going to give all I have and
Mm-hmm.
hope that something feeds me later. But we usually have time or skills or presence or money. We usually have something that we can give. So even if it's literally standing at the pot, I think they call them unhomed now, but I was going to say homeless people. Just you're literally like feeding the homeless, you know? Just like, even if you're depressed, you can, in a sad way, put some soup in the pot if they don't have enough volunteers, or in the bowl if they don't have enough volunteers down the road. And that's going to do something mentally and emotionally to that depressed person. Now, I'm with Andrew Tate. I don't really believe that depression is like something that comes out of the sky. I just believe that it's a chemical thing that's not created by a broken brain, that's actually created by a series of other things in all of the other categories that either creates the broken brain or the broken brain sets off with those other things in place. And there's always something that can be done. So, and by done, I mean by done for others, even if it's for me, it used to be like mentoring people, because I knew a lot about men's work and all of these things. So I would literally mentor people on the phone, and for that 1 hour, I would feel free of my burdens. I would not even realize that they were gone, and I would be free in that moment. As soon as I would get off, it would come back. So giving, however you can give, um, and and also I would say exercise. Now, it's because of what I said, it's so chemical. You know, we're so attached to the physicality that the the way that the mind body connection works, and the way that the state of the body affects brain function, which affects mind and identity function, it's like literally do one push-up if that's what you got in you. Do a 10-second wall squat. Anybody who knows me knows I love wall squats or wall sit. Do 10 seconds. Like, change the chemistry a little bit. Do 4 jumping jacks. Go for a 3-minute walk to your end of your street and back. I don't care if you're wearing a blanket over your head and sunglasses and sweatpants and two Crocs that don't match. I don't care. Do something to get moving. That will start to create a momentum. Now, if you're giving and moving, especially as you get deeper and deeper and deeper into, whether it's aerobics or whether it's calisthenics or whether it's resistance training or cardio training or yoga or Pilates or whatever you want to do, like, the more there's a momentum to it. So go on a little 3-minute walk today, go on a 5-minute walk tomorrow, and then take 2 days off and cry again. That's what I would do probably. I'd be like, that's too much. I've gone so far. It's like, okay, but then get back at it as soon as you can, and accept when you fail. Accept when you fail. Because, I mean, Tyler and I joke about this all the time. It's like, we love failing now. It's like, oh, perfect. That means that I'm at my edge. That means that I'm growing. That means that I'm up against challenge. That means that when I do this thing and fail, 30 times, on the 31st time, I'm going to break through to the other side. Now I get glory. Now I get celebration. So my three things are: give, but don't bankrupt yourself unless you want to play high stakes. I would say push into that giving a lot. I would say move your body as much as you possibly can. Change the state of your body, the chemistry of your body. It's going to help your brain. It's going to help your brain function. It's going to help your mental and emotional function. And what was the third one, Tyler? Oh yeah, forgive yourself all day long for failing, because we're all failures. I'm a failure. Tyler's a failure. Ian's a failure. Andrew Tate's a failure. Goggins is a
Rolf,
failure. Michael Singer's a failure. Joe Spence is a failure. Like all of them, they Michael Jordan's a failure. Nobody's running at 100%. So if you failed once, that means you have failed. Like I saw this thing the other day. Michael Jordan, 900 and something game-winning shots that he's attempted, and he made 140 something of them. Now, who says Michael Jordan's a failure at game-winning shots? Nobody. They all show that same shot where he shoots it and he sinks it, and it's a beautiful shot, and he won the championship or whatever, right? It's like, just keep going. Failure doesn't matter. Forgive yourself. Oh, and the fourth one, don't listen to what your mind says. Do not listen to what your mind says, because it's going to say all the things to keep you in that spot. And it's not doing that. It's not doing that to harm you. It's not evil. Some people might argue with me. It's not demonic. It's not an entity. It's literally a protection mechanism that's trying to keep you safe in some strange, deranged, ignorant way. So don't listen to your mind. Those are my four.
beautiful.
I was gonna
Yeah,
do one, but I got to four.
solid. That's like a 400% increase or something like that. All right. So we're gonna wrap it up here. When it comes to you and the men's work that you do now, I guess, what would you say about your purpose, your service? What does it look like for you? It's a business, yes, and it's your soul's purpose and gift. What is it that you're doing now?
We're kind of in a transition period right now where we've gone from men's work to focusing on money and the relationship with money, because we realized that that was a cornerstone or a pillar foundation of a man being confident, is him having resources. And this is one of the easiest resources to begin to build or to collect or gather or get in the stream of. So we've strayed away from men's work temporarily. I still work with men one to one, but as far as groups go, we've moved away from that. We're getting back into it. We've got the 100 Hills Challenge, which we're running right now. We'll likely run that again in January. We've done a thing called Forge by Fire in the past, which is like a 4-month training intensive on purpose, where power, passion, and purpose align is our fun little tagline. I mean, those words, every time I say them, they just ring as beautiful for me. Power, passion, and purpose. So we got that, and we're just kind of determining right now how we want to go about that. This 100 Hills Challenge is much more simple. It's just a daily challenge and a protocol. And I'm getting back into the volunteer stuff. I've got a Mankind Project staffing this weekend coming up at one of their next level trainings. So yeah, I mean, we're doing a lot, and we're kind of just closing out the year quietly right now, heading into what we're going to do for January.
Beautiful. Where, if anywhere, would you want the people to find you? You know, we got the social medias, we got the websites, anything like that. Where can folks learn more about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I spent all of my time, quote unquote, healing and learning the arts. So I'm not very good with tech. We don't have a website yet. I've said that on every podcast. I don't have a website yet. It's going to be like the running joke. Like, Ryan's never going to have a website. Ryan and Ian are never going to have a website. The best place is really Facebook. Ryan Albury on Facebook. I don't really do much on Instagram or anywhere else or websites. You can also hit me at Ryan at theillumination.co if you want a different way of going about it if you don't have Facebook. But Ryan Albury, Albury on Facebook. just shoot me a message. I'm very easy to get a hold of, and very personable. I love to talk to people about what they're going through, whether it's business or community or the mission and or collaboration or any of these types of things. So those are the best and easiest ways for simple old me.
Beautiful. Thank you for taking the time to talk purpose and all of it.
Mm,
Absolute pleasure.
thanks for having me, my friend.
Thank you for tuning into the Purpose Breakthrough Podcast and for investing in yourself today. If you're ready to stop chasing fulfillment and want to start making clear, confident decisions while doing the work you're meant to do, head over to tylerisit.com. There you can learn more about working with me to create a life of true purpose and alignment. This is just the beginning. Your breakthrough is waiting.